Hello. How is everyone? Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay by typing in the chat. Let's see, shall we? Hey, Athena. And who else is here? Just let me know if you can see me and hear me okay. And yeah, cool. Hey, Martin from the UK, Gabriel, Bob, and Brett. Very cool. All right. Well, hope everyone is doing well and that you can all see everything all right. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to this. And I'm not sure if it's possible. I think we can, I'm not sure if we can bring people up. Actually, we can. I think we can actually bring people up to request questions. So this is the official private Q&A that was included with the crowdfunding bundles and the campaign. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys for supporting. You guys were the first to support the new album, and it just means the whole world that you would do that and take a chance, because it's different than what I've done in the past. And so I just really appreciate that you believed in it and you believed in me. And I hope you're all loving the album. Whether you've gotten all your bundles yet or not, it's out there, and hopefully you're getting a chance to listen to it and tell me what you think. Cool. It sounds like everyone can hear me all right and see me fine. And that's awesome. Wow, that's cool. Everyone's saying where they're from. Now, yeah, we had a lot of invitations go out, and of course, with time zones and things, only a fraction of people can make it. But this is recorded, so if you have to leave or anything, we can send you the recording of it, so no problem at all. Maybe we should do something fun and listen to each song and talk about each song and talk about maybe what it's about. Would you guys be up for something like that? Or if you have any questions, go ahead and start typing it in the chat. You can actually send it to the moderators. I think if you can send it to a moderator, then it's separated from the chat, and we can find it in case the chat gets really going. All right. Cool. Well, I'm going to play the first song, and I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then we can talk about it. In the meantime, we'll wait for a few more people to show up as well. And if you have a question, type it in the chat, and then you can see, I don't know if you're on, it depends if you're on your phone or on your desktop, but you can type your message, and I think you can send it to everybody, or you can send it to admin. If you send it to admin, then we'll see it and it won't get lost. So you can try that. So I'll play the song. I'm not sure if it'll come through very nicely for you. You can tell me how it sounds, just because it's coming through a little microphone sitting in front of me. It's coffee.
When the leaves are falling and trees lay bare, and changes on the wind tonight, in the chill of winter's When the first light of dawn shines down on us, and we feel the warmth of peace. And in the dim stillness, we are at peace. For the light of the world is here. Light is breaking through the dark. The sun is their
All right. That's the whole world summoned. So we had some great questions come in from that. Let me back up here. We have some good ones. And in case anyone's just hopping on now, you can actually ask an official question to admin, and then we will see it and it'll actually stand out. So there's some good ones here. Where did Ex Cathedra come from? Well, originally that was from the song Ex Cathedra from Of Earth and Angels. So that just came from me playing around with little Latin phrases and such, and it kind of stuck. So I've just kept that as like my private label name that I release my music under. Let's see. The next one. What inspired you the most with this type of music? Mostly, I had to really go into a very specific headspace because I'm currently living in Phoenix, Arizona. So we're in the desert. And when I started writing this in February, March, it was already pretty warm out and not feeling, the Christmas season had just passed, winter was over, and now it's heading into warm season here. And so I had to focus very hard on the mentality of winter and the mentality of holidays and the mentality of the feeling and the vibe I wanted to create. It may have been worked to my advantage in that I was so focused on it that the music flowed pretty easily. And one of the things I did was I would find desktop wallpapers of things that looked, had the atmosphere, the mood that I wanted to create in the music. And I just made sure, like, normally my desktop is a mess. Like, I'm the one where there's files everywhere. I know what everything is, but it's a mess. So but I tried to clear it off so I would just see this big picture in front of me all the time. And I would swap it out depending on my mood and if it was still feeling inspiring to me or not. So desktop wallpapers free off the internet, surprisingly, really helped. That, or I'd like just surf the internet and look at photos. So for me, I'm very inspired by visuals. I'm a visual person. I like visual, whether it's paintings or films, TV, photos, being somewhere in person, the landscapes, being places, especially. So I like visuals, and that's usually how I'm getting inspired. So I had to create an environment conducive to that, but it worked. So I think I can do it again. All right, that was a good one. Hermes. How do you, or why did you want a Christmas album? Were you inspired by the trip you made to Europe? It didn't have so much to do with that. I think it was really just something a friend mentioned. They're like, you really should do that. And I've had the request from fans every year. I get a request for a holiday type of album. And I've dabbled in it a bit in the past, but I didn't, the songs that I have done, I kind of took down because they weren't up to the standard that I have now of just like the quality of the recordings and such. So maybe I'll redo that in the future. But yeah, I really, I love this time of year. So that was one reason. And then also, it's kind of fun to do a theme. It is fun to do something that's very focused and thematic and celebrated all around the world. So for me, it was a why not type of a thing. I was inspired by the trip we took to Europe, and we want to go back like immediately. We want to go back so bad, and we will. Bob asked, I know you like castles. Have you visited Tavria Castle in Phoenix yet? I don't think I've been to that one. I've been to the other one. I can't remember the one. It's called the one in the side of the mountain that's like 1,500 years old. Montezuma. I've been to that one, and that one is really interesting, really quite spectacular. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was very cool. I haven't seen, I'm assuming the one you're talking about, let me just look it up real quick. I think it is modern. It's not like a super old one. Okay, yeah, it's like a historic structure, looks like. Looks cool. I don't think I've heard of this one, but I will definitely check that out. Castle tours. Yeah, it's a different kind of castle, that's for sure. I don't know if it says how old it is. There must be an about on here. Do you know how old it is? Oh, it was from the 1920s. Yeah, from the 1920s. But that's cool. I'll definitely have to make my way over there. Britt said, when did you know you wanted to do this type of music? It was January of 2019. January, I made the decision. I was like, okay, enough people have asked me about it. I'm just going to do it. So it was a quick decision. So it all came together. Like I didn't officially start it until March. So writing, recording, orchestrating, all the producing, and then finding guest musicians, getting their stuff recorded and done. It all came together. I mean, that part was like 5 months or something. It was very fast. And then recording vocals too. It was very short time span. The whole thing start to finish was about 10 months, and it was really intense. So yeah, it was quite something. What inspires you to write? What inspires you the most to write lyrics? Typically, when I'm not doing something themed like this, I tend to oftentimes let the lyrics write themselves, in that I'm sitting down, I'm coming up with a melody, and I'm kind of singing gibberish, and certain words start coming out on their own. And then I oftentimes, if it's like, that feels like it has to be there, then I'll keep it, and then I'll try to find, like, what is this song about? I'm not sure what it's about yet. And I just go with the flow until I see a theme forming, and then I have something to work off of, and then I kind of fill in the gaps. It's a very strange process that I really don't know if you can teach it or duplicate it, or I'm not sure. I know other people have called it intuitive writing, song like lyric writing. But as far as this album goes, I that was a tricky one. I mean, I was inspired by the mood and the atmosphere and the visuals that I was looking for. And then I said, well, I want one that really is talking about nature. And so that was The Whole World Summons. Even though it brings in some other concepts, I did want to talk about nature in that one. So, for example, I did go into that one songwriting session with that intention in mind. Some of the other ones, I didn't really have an intention going in. I just sat down and wrote the best I could and then saw what emerged from it. So as soon as I had a Middle Eastern theme going on, Light of the World, it was pretty apparent to me what the theme was going to be about. You know, the Magi from the East kind of a theme. That was an easy one for me. So they were just like connections I would make, and then like, okay, let me go with this and see if it works. And with songwriting, nothing's in stone, right? Like you can go with the flow. You can experiment for as long as you want, and then at the very end change your mind. So that's usually what I do. Athena, let's see. Oh, I hear a mix of Celtic and Middle Eastern sounds in these tracks. There is, for sure, on a couple of them. What is your favorite aspect of making this or really any album? My favorite aspect is when, after I've written the song, and then I send it to my producer, and then he does his magic to it, all the orchestration and stuff, or I send it to, like, in when I'm doing metal. The first time I hear it back with like heavy guitars, like Timo has done his thing, and drums, then that just blows me away, because it just took it somewhere completely different, you know, like 10 times the energy that it had before when I sent it over, and I get it back and it's like, whoa, and I just get blown away. That's my favorite part, is hearing it, you know, life put into it. I mean, they're probably hearing it for the first time going, this is really cool. But then they add what they do, and it's so mind blowing. I love that part. And are you fluent in Latin? No, I'm definitely not. Whenever I sing something in another language, I just really do my research and I try to do my homework and I try to do it justice. And I know that it's not going to be perfect, and I'm okay with that. I would rather do it less than perfect than not do it at all. That's my philosophy. And yet I do try to strive for excellence. I do my best, but my best is not going to be perfect. So I know Latin's a dead language, but I know the people out there who do know Latin, they would probably critique my pronunciation up and down, but I'm sure they also appreciate that I am keeping it alive a little bit. So yeah, I just do my homework. What was my inspiration for The Whole World Summons? I hear a lot of bell sounds, which is amazing. Does it have special meaning to you? No, there's not anything special meaning in other than I wanted to create a sound that felt, yeah, very medieval, kind of gothic. Like I wanted you to picture a big abbey or a big cathedral or something with bells, and it's snowing outside. And for me, it was a picture, right? It was a picture of what I saw in my mind. Snowing outside, it's cold. There's like street lanterns. There's a big cathedral, and you're seeing the stained glass come through, and monks maybe, you know, like I wanted to see that, but hear it in music format. So that's how I imagined it. That's cool. Thank you very much, Chris, for your comment. Let's listen to the next one, unless you guys would rather me skip listening through. But it is kind of nice. I can at least play a part of it. Let's see. Let me know if that's okay, and then I'll come back and answer a few more.
Nations, come to your light, travel to the the brightness of your dawn. And many kings from distant shores bring gold and incense from afar. Far away now, dream let us hear. Walking off the sea, feel this night so crystal Providence, here on this night, from east come sages to adore. A new king, a new age, of peace and redeeming evermore. And following a dream that let us hear.
Well, thanks so much for hanging out, you guys. See some other great questions. John, I love the album art. Do you have much input in the art? Do you let your artists do what they feel? Usually I have a good idea. There have been some album covers where I wasn't quite sure what we were going to do, and so I gave them a lot of creative freedom. In this case, with the Quest, I had a very specific thing in mind, and for this album, I also had a specific picture in mind. So yeah, for this album, I actually gathered up a lot of photos and different elements. Like I knew I wanted Northern Lights. I knew I wanted a castle in it. I wanted woodland creatures and animals in it. I wanted to kind of I wanted it to feel like you're in Switzerland in the Alps or something with this amazing little village that's lit up, something like that. So I had all these different elements that were clear in my mind that I gave to the artist, and so then he really had a lot to work from, and so it made his life a little easier. We had several iterations of it until we landed on what we have now, and the final piece was kind of the frame of the album artwork being like you're in a castle or a cathedral or some kind of building yourself, looking out onto the scene. And for me, that was the last element I was really looking for. And yeah, I think we arrived on something that looked pretty special. And I'm so glad that you like it. Brandon said, let's see, not related to the current album. Curious about the song Dragonborn Comes that expired by the Skyrim game. Well, it is a Skyrim game song. I didn't write that. I just did my version of it. So I hope you guys like that. Are you subscribed to my YouTube channel? Just curious because I think a lot of people don't realize I even have one. And I do post videos from time to time there. So if you don't know, you just look up LEAH, all caps, or LEAH the music, and you'll find me there. A lot of people don't know that I guess I have a channel there, and I actually just released a full album stream of Ancient Winter there. If you want to share it with your friends and stuff, that helps spread the word. Cool. Let's see. Gerbert said, do you enjoy working that quick or do you prefer to have no pressure? Well, typically any pressure that I have, a lot of times it's been that I put it on myself, or in this case, the reason it had to happen this quickly is because of, there is a time associated with, the dates of this time of year, right? Like you want a winter album out in time for winter and in time for the holidays. And so because of that, there was inherent deadlines built in, that I couldn't control. So I would have preferred to have taken, twice the amount of time that I took. And I probably would have had more songs on the album. I would have had 10 or 12 maybe. So it just means that I'll have to do another one where I could take a little more time. Maybe give myself like a year and a half to work on it instead of 10 months, because that was a little intense. But I like that I can do it. And it's nice to know if I put my mind to something, it's possible to do it. It's doable. I will have more gray hairs by the end of it, but it is doable. And it's a lot because you guys know I'm fully independent, so I'm responsible for everything that happens. Unlike a lot of artists that are on the label, I mean, they make the record and then pass it off, and they don't do anything after that, right? Whereas my circumstance is different. I'm responsible for putting together the entire crowdfunding campaign, the pre-sales, the pre-launch, the launch itself, like everything involved, picking the merchandise, finding the manufacturers. If there's problems with manufacturers like we had this time, fixing that problem, finding somebody new. And there's so many logistics that go on that nobody sees, that is incredibly, let's just say it's not for the faint of heart. And so because of that, I think that if it was just me making music and putting albums out every few months, that would be one thing. But of course we do much more than that. I don't just release music. I have to work very, very hard as an independent artist to, release it properly, do everything with excellence, and then make sure it's getting out to the most people. And of course, you guys do such an amazing job at spreading the word through word of mouth and through just sharing through social media and share and just with your friends and stuff. That really goes far. It really does. So I have to give you guys a lot of credit there. Interesting, Bob says, how much of the music is written by you compared to additions and collaboration from your guest artists? Well, typically, it depends on the album. So let me just talk about this album. Really, the collaborators the guest musicians are just playing the parts that we kind of carved out for them. Now, so like, for example, Troy's flute parts, I wrote all of them already, most of them, in my demos, and that's what we're sending to him. We're sending him demos of like parts we've kind of already said, hey, there's already flute parts here. What we always tell them though is, this is the main melody. Feel free, make it yours. Make it yours. If we just give them creative freedom to do more than what we just put there. Sometimes oftentimes they'll give us a lot more to work with than actually ends up on the album. And they do that on purpose so that we have options, right? So, because we're not sitting in the studio together, we can't hash out, we can't try 10 different ways of this one part together. So what they'll do is they'll record multiple versions of something and then they send them all to us, and we pick and choose like what we feel is going to work in the end. The producer and I will. And then, so some things get the chopping block on the way to the finished record. But in the case of sometimes like Kings and Queens was a completely different type of album because that one, Timo and I really produced together. That was before Oliver. I actually had Oliver on that album doing orchestration as like an emergency orchestration at the very end. And it was like the guy who had started doing orchestration for me couldn't finish because due to other obligations. And so Oliver stepped in at the last minute and did a couple of songs. He did Palace of Dreams and a couple others. And I loved what he did. And I said, oh, could we work together in the future? Because I really like what you did there. And like you understand how to do orchestration for metal. A lot of people who write and do orchestration for a living haven't worked with metal. And the problem with that is as far as the music goes, a lot of the frequencies and those little detailed, amazing things that happen in orchestration and orchestras, you won't hear any of it as soon as there's heavy metal and drums and bass like that. It's lost in the frequencies. It doesn't cut through at all. And so you have to work with somebody who understands that and knows what will cut through, so to speak, and so that's what Oliver does. I mean, he does orchestration for his day job, for film and TV and all that, but he's worked with metal his whole life. So he understands what sticks out and why, what makes that work. So anyway, but in the case of like with Timo, he wrote a lot of those parts. So I gave him the basic structure. Here's my keyboards. Here's my vocal. Here's and I would flesh it out quite a bit. Can you write some guitar parts? And he would write all of it. So in that part, I mean, that was pretty significant what he did. It changes the song, right? And then there would be adjustments we'd make to the actual song based on that. Sometimes once you add guitar and you add those things, you realize, oh, this part is actually too long or too short or whatever, and you make adjustments. So there have been times where there's been significant contributions that way. Oh, Gerbert, please don't check with your wife. She's a Latin teacher. No, don't check. I mean, only if she has good things to say. Otherwise, I'm sure that I messed up. But Britt says, I'm an amateur fantasy writer, and the novel I'm currently working on is inspired by Kings and Queens album. When finished, would you like a copy? I would love that. Please, yeah, send just write into our support or just to leahtribe@excathedral.ca, and we'll make it happen. That would be great. I love it. I actually hear from a lot of writers that listen to my albums for inspiration for writing. That's really cool to me. I never thought I would hear from so many authors. Very cool. Will you ever release songbooks for your albums? I'd love a guitar tab edition for your albums. Actually, that is in the works right now. Yes, there will be, maybe not like for each individual album. I think what we're starting with is a compilation of popular songs. So we are starting with that. And so stay tuned. We'll have some news about that fairly soon. How much research do you usually do when trying to sing and write in another language? Quite a bit, actually, especially I really had to do my research on Noël Nouvelet, the French song, because I don't speak French at all. Latin I find is much easier, and I've kind of got the hang of some of the pronunciations, even though it's not perfect. If I listen carefully to other renditions, I'll pick it up, because it's not, the rules are fairly simple compared to other languages from what I understand. Whereas French, there are some things you're just like, I had to practice and practice and practice and listen to many renditions. And then, of course, you get a little confused when you're listening to many renditions, because even at that point, people are pronouncing certain phrases and words like completely different from each other. So then I'm trying to like pick up, the native accent and everything. And I'm sure I didn't do that perfectly either. But again, I do as much research as I possibly can. I go to record, I do my best, and then I let it go and do better next time. And I just keep learning. Let's see. Have you ever considered high res version? Blah blah blah. Hoping instrumental versions be available. Yeah, for that sort of thing, you can write into support, and we'll see what we can do. Are you going to take a break, or are you already starting the process for your next album of starting? What's your initial rough goal to have a release? I think I've already got a lot of ideas rumbling around in my head. So what I would say is I will probably be writing next year, but I don't plan on releasing anything in 2020. I definitely need to take a little break. Yeah, my tendency is to push myself. So that's never, I mean, I have enough drive and ambition for 5 people. So I think I need to rest and recover from this, but I will be writing. I think writing is, I have to continue doing that. So writing and, yeah, starting to flesh out maybe what could be the next album. Is it going to be metal? Is it just going to be fantasy? I have some ideas, but I'll keep them to myself for now. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. If you guys could mark it as a question, that way I can like separate it from like the regular comments. That's an interesting comment. Roy said, so little of Christmas music evokes the fact that the miracles occurred in the Middle East. We also get the Latin from the Roman occupation. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, and true. That's cool. I like some of the comments you guys are sending. I'm just trying to find which ones are the questions. Do you write the lyrics and the music? Yeah. So the first 5 songs in the album, I did write all of it. I mean, all of it. And then I wrote all for Gaudete, Puernatus, Noel Nouvelle. I put my own spin on it. So there are many, many renditions of all 3 of those songs, particularly Gaudete. There's many renditions of that, some beautiful ones. I really wanted to make sure that if I'm doing a song that's been done before, it must sound different. It must sound unique. That's my criteria. I actually tried many different traditional songs when I was doing my research. I tested many, many ones. I would play it and say, does this feel natural? Do I feel like I can do something? Does my voice sound good with this style of song? And I had to rule out a few that I just knew I could make it work, but it will take significant amount of time for me to get it into the shape I want. And we're kind of running out of time. So I settled on the ones that I knew would be pretty epic and cool and special, and that I knew would sound very unique. So that's kind of how I settled down with that. Oh yeah, so actually to finish answering that question, the 3 last songs I didn't write the lyrics for or the music per se in the original. I mean, there's been iteration. I mean, some of them are coming from the 13th century. I think Puer Natus is 13th century. Really old medieval song. Super old. I don't know. I mean, today's version of the melody is probably changed, 50 times or 100 times since then. But I would say that I gave it the LEAH treatment, and that I guess all the production of it, I would say that's original, but not the original words or melody. So those are intact. And that's the tricky thing about doing cover songs or traditional songs is my challenge, and I think this is why I like doing things like this, is how do I keep the integrity of the original song, keep the original melody intact, and yet give it something fresh that nobody has really heard before? That's the challenge, and I like to make my life difficult, so also sing it in another language. Who created the artwork? That is Jan of Dark Grove Studios. You can find all the credits and stuff. They're online and in the booklet. Why the castle above the village? I sort of see the village as Bethlehem, but what does the castle represent? It's more so what my artist came up with than any sort of symbolic representation. The castle above the village, I think that's just where probably from my travels in history, what I know, castles usually like to be up high somewhere where they get a vantage point, like a 360 vantage point. I've been to many locations where that was the case, and not down in a valley, where they'd be more vulnerable. So I think, I mean, it makes sense, location wise, that a castle would be up high on a cliff. And you know, the peasants are down in the valley, in the village. Oh, I want to be in the village. I want to be in the castle, but I also like to hang out in the village and hang out with my neighbors and you know, drink beer and stuff. So I think that it does make sense. I haven't heard Ancient Winter yet, so I can't ask a question. What's next for Leah? When can we expect your next metal album? What's next for me is I'm going to be writing. Also, man, I'm really into this candle making thing too. I might keep doing that. It's really therapeutic. I love it. It's creative. I can express myself in a totally different way, and it's something that I use. I think I might do more of that, and I think I might explore other fun things they could do, like games and such, like maybe even board games or something. I know a guy that actually creates them, like invents them and creates them, brings them to market. So I might work with him on something like that, maybe do a soundtrack for it or something really wild and crazy. I feel like I'm in the prime of creativity in my life, and I'm never going to run out of ideas. So metal album in the future, absolutely. I don't know if that's going to be the next one. I don't know yet until I start writing and see what comes out. But yeah, there will be more music, that's for sure. Will there be a Halloween themed album? Probably not. I mean, you could probably get something pretty gothic out of me, but not really Halloween themed. Halloween's probably my least favorite of all holidays. Like it, I mean, All Hallows Eve is one thing, but like today's commercialized Halloween with the candy and stuff, like it's one day. I don't even really decorate for it because it just goes away. I like seasonal things. I like things that last a little longer. Uh, yeah, I heard you say in a post you were wondering what genre, fantasy or metal, your next album would be. Did you decide on it yet? Well, you kind of probably already heard me say, not, I don't really know yet. I'll probably do both. Um, I just don't know in what order. Yeah, Kings and Queens is my most listened to album of all time. Honestly, I wondered if you ever might create another album with the same vibe, feel, and length. I think I would. Yeah, I do think I would. I think, yeah, it's in me. I mean, there's more where that came from for sure. Let's see, Matt. Any suggestions for beginning composers wanting to learn to write metal music? What helped you the most? So many great resources and books on general music theory, but difficult to find anything specifically for metal. Oh man, that's a tough one because I'm probably not the right person to ask in that I don't even read music. It's terrible. I've got my kids are all in piano lessons. They can probably read music better than I can. Um, and of course, I'm not writing the guitar parts and stuff. Like I that's not my specialty. You have to find your superpower. I think that's my best suggestion. Find your superpower. What are you really good at? For me, I know what I'm good at, and that's writing melody. I write melodies and like a basic chord structure that goes with the melody. That's my strong suit. And I kind of know that's my lane. Where I'm really weak is on percussion and on drums. And even though I've written lots of things that have stayed on the albums, I just know, like, actually, I can do some percussive things, but writing the main, like the way there's a psychology and I want to say like a language of drums of like what's logical that comes first, second, third in like a sequence. I'm not good at that. Don't ask me why. I just have no training in it whatsoever. It doesn't come natural to me. Whereas I know that I'm really good at melody and I'm good at conveying emotion and such. So I kind of just stay in my lane and I'll find other people to fill in the gaps where I know I'm weak. So that would be the one piece of advice. As far as like composing for metal, I mean, that's difficult because I think most metal is usually happening in a band situation. I'm a solo artist, so I have to approach it completely different. But there's some good folks out there, I'm sure, that could point you in the right direction. Yes, Roy says with 5 kids, I would say a year off is well overdue. Yeah, well, I've never really taken a year off, maybe a year off from releasing an album, but I'll be writing, I'll be doing things behind the scenes. And of course, one day I do want to tour. You guys know that. I'm thinking about it. I can't make any promises that it'll happen 2020. That really wouldn't be taking a year off, but um, I'm thinking about it. And of course, I'm still working on getting my health in order. I feel really good about going on the road. And I don't really know what that looks like yet. If it would be a short term thing or like a big tour or just a short tour or just select dates in certain places. There's different ways of doing it. So I'm thinking hard about all that. And I'll be, yeah, just making, plans in my head and see which one seems the most feasible. As a mother, do you find it hard to balance both work and time with your kids? Yes, I always do. Although it's a lot easier with me being a stay at home mom and them being homeschooled. It certainly makes the opportunity much, much easier. And, I like that lifestyle. I like the lifestyle of being home with them. I'm raising them myself. Um, but even then, you still have to be deliberate and intentional to spend quality time with them. It's very easy for the day to go by and you haven't really looked someone in the eyes, and really given them that one-on-one attention. So yes, I still find, I think anybody's situation where you're like a working parent or you're home with them or whatever, it's really about being intentional and deliberate and make, even if you can only give them 5 or 10 minutes, but it's focused, eye to eye time. I think that goes so far with kids, and I think you end up with better behaved, more well adjusted kids if they get that attention. Have you considered making a music video for this album? I have, but we're really running out of time. Like, because that's another reason why I don't recommend doing it so fast. There was literally no time. I didn't even have time to do like a photo shoot. It was really difficult to like even have, photo assets and such that we needed for this album because it was so quick. So that's another reason I like to give myself time and space for that. And I'm hoping in 2020, like I would love to go out and start doing lots of music videos. They're very expensive to make for the kind that I would want to make for my music. So we'll have to come up with a way to do that. But yeah, I would love to do it. I would love to do lots of music videos. So that's also on my mind. I heard you mention video game RPGs on Facebook. Obviously, Dragonborn comes. Are you an avid gamer? I would not. I mean, I don't have time to be an avid gamer. If I didn't have so much going on, I probably would do a lot more gaming. I game in my spare time once in a while when I have time. I mean, for the quest, I spent quite a bit of time playing Skyrim just to help me get inspired because, I'm a very visual person. So what I asked my fans, hey, like, I'm trying to get inspired for this album. What kind of games would you recommend? And everybody hands down said, you have to play Skyrim, you have to play that. So that's why I did. And I loved it. And my kids love it. And we all love it now. So I'll just keep taking suggestions like that. I think it's a great, I don't know. I think it's kind of, it's almost like good family time sometimes too. Like we all play it together and get into it and it's fun. Did you get any inspiration for a future song from visiting Sedona? Lots of good candle works up there too. Sedona is really otherworldly, very cool place. That's one of my favorite places that I've been here in the States, is Sedona. It's like you're on Mars or something. It's so cool. Everything from just like huge waterfalls to these like massive red cliffs and like crazy, it's just really cool. I love it there. And of course I like the very artistic type community they have. I don't know if I could live there, but I mean, I certainly could go there a few times a year. Just like it. Such an outdoorsy community. I don't know if I'm inspired for music in the same way, other than I just love travel in general. I love seeing things in general, and I kind of just bank it up, I think, in my inspiration tank. Do you ever get asked to guest vocal on other albums? From time to time, but not too often. I did just get approached, but I can't say who yet because I think it's still secret. Um, to do a guest vocal on a song, uh, and that's all I can say. And I accepted it, so you'll hear that. I don't know when it will come out because I haven't sang it yet, but uh, I'm thinking it'll be in the next few months. So I better get practicing for my part. So what I can say is I'm not the only guest. That would be that. But that's all I can say. Let's see here. Nadia said, Kings and Queens is majestic. Personally, my favorite album ever. Each and every song is epic and beautiful. Will you do something with the same feeling? Like continue the storyline of Palace of Dreams? Yeah, that's a really cool idea. And I think I would work with Timo on that too because it was such a just like it was him and me really just on that album. Like that was it was really him and I doing that. So I would have to work closely with him. I would love to see a gothic album from you. Cool. Would you ever consider writing music for a game? Yes, actually I have had a couple of requests from indie gamers, like indie game creators. So yeah, I would absolutely do that, and I think it would be a good match to do stuff like that. Uh, if and hopefully when you play live, will you just sing or take the chance to play some instruments? I primarily sing, and then I'm sure I could jump on the piano here and there. I do play the harp a little bit, but not I'm not practiced enough to do live. But again, like there's a lot of time between now and when that would have happened. So if I'm practiced enough and it becomes part of the show, then I would do it. But I think I would be best served as just mainly the front woman singer. But you never know. I mean, I'm totally open to that. I think it would be fun. And there's other little things I could do too, like um, tambourine or like a little percussion here and there, or there's other things I can do because I got two hands, so I can do more than just hold a mic. Cool. Let's play. Does anyone have a request for a song to play? Like I feel maybe let's play Gaudete because it is one of my favorites. Let me know if you can hear it. Okay.
Conosco consiglio, lasciami il gusto, una dica domino, sale scorgi il
It was really fun. I got to send the album and the candles also to one of a guy named Eduardo Tolerante. He makes sound libraries, and I use a lot of his sound libraries on my albums for the last several years since Otherworld, even, but for sure Kings and Queens onward. I've used a lot of his sound libraries, and we become Facebook friends. He lives in Spain, and so I've sent him all my albums, and it was so cool. I kind of had a fangirl moment in that. I mean, he's not like a celebrity, but I mean, he kind of is. He's very well known in certain circles, but nobody sees him. He's like such a behind the scenes kind of guy because he creates sound libraries. But he said he's making the manual for his next sound library, and he's been listening to Ancient Winter nonstop while doing that. And that was just such a huge compliment to me, and I was really flattered that he enjoyed it. And I imagine it would be rewarding for him to get to hear an album with so many of his sounds that that someone like me is using to create. So it was just really cool thing that happened recently. A couple last questions here. Anthony said, in the past year, I buy and listen to a lot of music. It's a huge symphonic progression from the 3 previous albums. What do you feel is your best album today outside of Ancient Winter? Well, I mean, there's something special about Of Earth and Angels, the first one. Something special and raw in that, because I had zero fan base. I had not a soul knew who I was in terms of being a singer-songwriter. And so and in one sense, I had, it's a good thing in that I had complete freedom to just put anything I wanted out there. And I didn't even have to worry about it, what anyone would think, because nobody knew me. Like, I didn't have a single fan except for my mom, a few relatives. That was it. So I was really free to make whatever my heart so desired. So what you hear on that album is very special in that was the first iteration of LEAH, the music and the brand, like what I feel like that first album, I was still trying to figure out who I was, but you really do hear a personality there, and it was still special and something different. So for that reason, I think it was a pretty special album. Other than that, they all have something unique. And for where I was at that time, Kings and Queens was pretty special as well, in that I didn't have like an actual producer other than it was Timo and I. And I just felt like I wanted to write and write and write. I had so many songs I wanted to put on the album. I did cut for that album, believe it, even though it was 15. I did cut songs out. But yeah, that one was special. It also represented a very specific time in my life too. But I do believe that the Quest was on another level from what I had done in the past too. So I don't know. I'm an artist, so I see them each as individual, like they're like children, you have a baby and your heart just expands and you love them all the same but different because they're all so different from each other. I feel like that with every album. So it's hard I can't just like choose one or anything. Yeah, and there are things like, you look back at your production or your vocal quality and things, and you just think, oh, I could have done that better, or I wish I had worked on that more. It can be difficult as an artist to not go back and like criticize yourself. So I try not to do that, and I try to just appreciate it for what it is. In fact, some of my favorite bands, I love their earliest work the most, even when they had the lowest budget and everything wasn't perfect and the vocals weren't perfect, and things just it's part of the charm, right? And so I've tried to come to appreciate those things even for myself, and realize I give myself grace there, and that some of the imperfections are the things that endear us. Let's see, what is your favorite song in Ancient Winter? What do you like best about each song, if no favorite? I mean, Redemption is probably one of the most special ones to me in that I do feel like that song came up. It was written out of some of the bottled up experiences that I had in the UK and Ireland and Scotland and England. And that song just like wrote itself. It was so fast how it happened. I mean, it's like the most magical thing when that happens. Like, and not every song, when I write a song, they do not all happen like this. So sometimes you agonize over a song for weeks before it's completed. And then sometimes like this one, it practically wrote itself in an hour. You just sat down and the whole thing was there. I had the melody, I had the chords, I had all the big pieces of the puzzle. It was like done start to finish in just a couple hours, and then it feels so good. Like it was like, oh, the song feels good. It feels good to sing. It feels good to write. It feels good. Like, and every time we produce and add something to it, it just feels good. And I love that song. I loved that song right away. So, and then when Troy, of course, added his flute, I mean, I wrote all the flute parts originally before he added them, but then when he added it, it was just like, it's just like such a goosebump moment. That one's really special to me. So I think that was for sure one of my favorites. I'll go back to that one probably continuously, and it'll be special. Yeah. Peter says, more guest vocals. I loved your guest vocals on Dragon Lord's album. Thank you. That was super fun. I hope to do more with Eric. Being the geek I am, would you ever do a YouTube video going through your studio like equipment and software? Yeah, I would do something like that, although it wouldn't be very exciting because I probably have everything set up wrong. I am not a gear gal. I do not know gear very well at all. I know enough to get me by to get the job done. And yeah, I wouldn't say I'm very technically inclined when it comes to gear. I can make my way around in the internet, and I know how to do marketing. I know how to do all that kind of stuff, but gear, no, I need like help setting things up. And yeah, like if I have to change my microphone to something else, I need help because I don't know which cord goes where. Like, I'm not good. The software I use is like very big. I use Logic Pro. I've been meaning to switch over to the one that my producer uses so that we can send projects back and forth really easily. But it's like, when do you have time for that? So he uses Cubase, that kind of stuff. But like, I really don't have anything exciting to show anybody, so I'm not sure it would be a very exciting video, but I could do it. Have you considered to have more vocal guests on in the future? Yeah, I would. And my gosh, I mean, I'm really impressed with Timo's vocals. I knew he could sing years ago when he released some of his old stuff, and I was like, dang, he can sing. But I'm like thinking about, I think I need to have Timo do some guest male vocals. I really like his voice. And by the way, you do hear Oliver singing in Puerna too. So you hear him if you hear a male vocal in some of the choir group singing parts, that's him. You also hear him on the Quest very faintly in parts, just doing like backing vocals. But I'll play Puerna too next, and you can actually hear him in there. Yes, yes, Gaudete. Yeah, it's ecclesiastical Latin. That's correct. And there's a difference between classical Latin and ecclesiastical Latin. Apparently there's a difference. That's all I know. Cool. Did you consciously try to convey the feeling cold weather through your music in Ancient Winter? So are there any chords, intervals, or instruments that are especially good at reminding you of particular kinds of weather? I think just like having the bells and certain things like that, even just like the monks and choirs and whatnot, that can evoke a picture in your mind. And that's what I was trying to do, right? I think that's the most amazing and difficult thing, is to have an intangible picture in your mind that nobody else can see, and then try to impress the same picture you see through an intangible medium such as music, and try to make something intangible tangible, and then give other people the same picture and feeling. It's very interesting and strange and like bewildering in a way that that's even possible. And somehow I did it. I mean, based on, I haven't heard anybody say, when I listen to Ancient Winter, I don't feel like this suits winter. Nobody has said that. Everyone says, oh, I really feel like I'm in like the winter spirit now. I feel like this is like the holiday album I'm going to listen to nonstop. So somehow I was able to convey that, and I don't know how that works exactly. It wasn't intentional. All I can say is like I put my soul into it and I put my intention into it, and then hopefully when I was picking sounds and chords and such, that I chose them correctly to convey it. I don't know. It's kind of mysterious, really. So yeah, let me play Pour en Tous, and then we'll take the last couple of questions. And listen for Oliver. Well, there you have it. Did you hear Oliver? I mean, all those, you can hear all those low vocals in there. That's him. That's the producer. And of course, he used to sing in his band Everon, which was a progressive metal band. I guess they were really, I think, popular in Germany in the 90s, late 90s. They did some great stuff. So check them out. Everon, I think you can listen to them on YouTube if you ever want to hear what Oliver's like all on his own. So yeah, last couple of questions here. What about the chance of you and Charlotte Wessels ever doing a duet? I would not rule that out. I mean, I'm good friends with some of the bandmates already, so I mean, it could definitely happen. Never say never. I don't know if like the opportunity would have to rise, but yeah, that would be great. Martin, are there any artists that have inspired you? Yeah, I'm inspired by all kinds of artists all the time. Let me just take a look. Like recently, I mean, there's some great bands out there I'm just discovering. I really like the new Fawn album. Actually, I just started listening to it. I haven't even listened all the way through. I don't know. I don't. They're a German band. This is so funny. Every time it seems like discover a new band that I really like. It turns out they're German, and I don't know. I guess I have an affinity for German music, and I didn't even realize it. But really enjoying like kind of folk music, like Celtic folk music, like that. So Faun, Fawn. I don't know how they pronounce it. I'm sure because one time I tried to tell my producer, who's German, that I like this band, and he's like Fawn. Like he didn't know who I was talking about, and then he's like, oh, and he pronounced it completely different. So, anyways, I'm not saying it right. I'm sure they're great. I also discovered this other band recently, and they're calling themselves like folk fantasy, called Elaine, Elane. Found out they're from Germany too. So I guess I don't really like Germans, and I work with a lot of Germans, and folks in the Netherlands as well. So yeah, I'm inspired by lots of artists. I also listen to music that I don't make quite like, they're not like as similar to me. Those bands are a little more similar to me, but there's other bands that I'm inspired by that are not as similar. Um, it can really be, um, yeah, there can be, let me just look at some of the other things I've been listening to. Yeah, like I've been enjoying Amorphous lately. There's a newer Sarah Brightman. I mean, I just listen to all kinds of stuff. Uh, I would say like I'm less inclined to listen to like pop and like electronic type music, although I don't rule it out. Like if I'm in the gym or something, I can totally enjoy that as well. But typically in my day-to-day life, I'm listening to a lot of folk music, a lot of harp, a lot of stuff that just makes me feel in the mood that I want to be in. So found. Okay, that's when I knew it. So Gunnar says he's in Germany. It's pronounced faun. Faun. See, I knew him. And us Canadians, we just look at it, so it's fawn. Anyway, they're a great band. And yeah, do you have any experiences or thoughts about music therapy? Do you think about the healing power of music when you're writing songs? I'm not normally thinking about that, but I do know that it is real and that music is very therapeutic. In fact, in some of my most stressful moments, actually leading up to the launch of this album, when I had so much to do, like I really had a mountain. It felt like I was looking at Mount Everest and I was standing at the bottom of Mount Everest. And sometimes I would struggle with overwhelm. I would specifically listen to music as I'm working that really just makes me feel so peaceful and calm. Specifically, I was listening to just the Celtic harp, just like instrumental music, a lot of instrumental music. I found, yeah, if I'm listening to something that's not instrumental, I want to like listen to the vocals and stuff, and so then I'm a little distracted. But if I'm trying to work, I listen to a lot of instrumental music. So yeah, there's trying to find some of the artists. Lisa Lynn is a harpist that I really like, and her husband Arya. They're really great, and there's a bunch of others that yeah, I've been really enjoying lately. And even sometimes I like listening to things like the Native American flute, just instrumental music like that. It really makes me feel peaceful, calm, centered, and it just, yeah, it just raises my happiness level and makes me feel so much better about like the moment right now. And that's all we have. We're in the moment right now. That's it. I can't control the future and I can't control the past. I only have the present moment. And so if I can listen to music that is therapeutic, or make music that is therapeutic for others, I think it is powerful for sure. Dave says, "Have you heard that? Have you heard the Robin Hood soundtrack that Clannad did in the '80s?" Yes, I have. There's also October Project as well. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that one, but yeah. So Clannad actually, they're great, and I am familiar with them. And actually, I liked their version of Shula Rune that I sang on Kings and Queens. So that was one version I studied to check my Gaelic pronunciation. They were one of the renditions that I was doing research on to make sure that because they really know how to speak it. They speak and sing it so much, and they're native Irish, obviously, and they're all Gaelic speakers. So I really paid attention to their pronunciations. Well, man, this has been wonderful. If you guys have any last questions, now would be a good time to ask before we wrap things up. I appreciate you all hanging out with me. This has been really fun. Let me see. Any last requests for playing a song? Otherwise, I might just pick maybe Redemption. All right, I'll play it, and then we'll leave it there.
You are the storm in the distance, and I'll consuming fire. And all I can do is surrender right now. You are the rage in the ocean waves, the freezing cold in the winter. And all I can do is give in to you now. I never knew you until now. My eyes are open to see you. I'm falling deep into the bliss of my redemption. You wear a crown of nobility, faith with its sword in your eyes. And all I can do is surrender right now. You rest your feet on your enemies, come and the wind waves to blow. And all I can do is believe you now. I never knew you until now. My eyes are open to see you. I'm falling deep into the bliss of my redemption. I never knew you until now. My eyes are open to see you. I'm falling deep into the bliss of my redemption. I'm falling deep into the bliss of my redemption. I never knew you until now. My eyes are open to see. I'm falling deep. My
Oh, well, thank you so much for hanging out, guys. This has been really fun. I saw the last couple of questions here before we wrap up. And thank you for your very sweet comments. I've been reading them here. You guys are really amazing. Last question was, when I was a little girl, teenager, who did you listen to? And do you still listen to any of those artists and albums to this date? In short, who are the artists in particular albums in your lifetime or your go-to albums in your lifetime? Well, when I was young, it was like Ace of Base, because that's, you had the radio. There was no Spotify or even YouTube back then. I loved, but it was interesting because even the pop music that I was drawn to as a kid, like Ace of Base, I had no idea it was European pop, right? It was Swedish. I didn't know that. And I was so drawn to the chord progressions. They were very dark and different from any of the American music. I also really liked Mariah Carey as like a singer. It was like, Whitney Houston, all those singers that all of us young girls would get inspired by. But I really loved the dark chords and melodies that came out of Swedish pop music. I didn't even know. There was another artist named Robin that was also from Sweden. I didn't know that either. Of course, their songs were written by somebody else, but I believe that he was Swedish. So it was all this Swedish pop that I didn't even realize. And so I didn't know that I had a taste for European, metal or pop or whatever's coming out of Europe. I didn't know that. I didn't find out that till years later. So that was very interesting to me. But as far as when I really started getting into songwriting, it was the singer-songwriters of my time, like Sarah McLachlan, Tori Amos, those types of songwriters that really did inspire me to go much deeper into who am I as a songwriter. So I do occasionally go back and listen to them, but these days, their sound is so different now. I was really inspired by the early stuff. So when I do go back to listen to them, it's usually their early albums that I'm listening to again, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's what really inspired me. And the stuff today, maybe it's good, but it's not the same. So those are the things that I actually loved 90s music, certain genres of it, definitely more up the singer-songwriter alley. Thank you so much, you guys. This was wonderful hanging out, and this is recorded. And so if anybody had to leave, you'll be able to get a recording of this, and we will send it to you. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for the support. Thank you for being the first ones to support the album and believe in me. And it's always a learning experience. Sometimes things don't go as planned or technology is working against you. And you guys are always so understanding. Just know if you have any questions or concerns, anything about your orders, anything like that, I do have a full-time customer service person available for you guys. Just email in, whether it's to leahtribe@xcathedra.ca or even just support@xcathedra.ca. Either way, we'll get back to you on that. And I just thank you so much for your support. It's been really, it's always a wild ride doing all this as an independent artist, and you make it a joy, and I can't wait to keep making music. So thank you all so much. We will see you later and soon, and enjoy the album and have a very epic and ancient winter. Bye for now. See you guys later.